I want to talk to you guys today about something that I am fired up to share with you about. And it is something that I see so many entrepreneurs, so many people fall into this trap. I've done it myself, and I want to break you free of this. And I want to show you how powerful the small changes that you make in your life today and how those small changes create massive ROI, massive results in your life. And I think we live in a society that says, hey, you just get rich overnight. You just do one thing and bang, you're making money. Or people want to chase, all the quickest ways to make a little bit of cash because it's those quick wins and they feel good. They hit those endorphins when you're like in momentum. But in reality, some of the things that I see people going and chasing after are not sustainable for their life and for their business. And where this is coming from, you guys, I've been working with a naturopath for the last probably close to a year now, and it has been life changing. I will never not have lab results done as far as what's going on internally in my life because I've seen the power of transformation. And I started working with her when I was about 6 months postpartum with Oliver, and I was frustrated. I felt like I was doing everything right. And on paper, if you were to look at my life, there were a lot of things that I was doing right as far as exercising and eating well, but I wasn't feeling or seeing the results that I wanted. And I was so frustrated. And I knew something needed to change. And so I had been looking into different alternatives, like what kind of supplement should I be taking? What about lifestyle? And it led me down to a conversation having with a friend about working with a functional medicine doctor. And I started working with her. And within our first couple of meetings, both her and the nutritionist that I had been working with said, it's not about losing a ton of weight overnight. It's not about like seeing your test numbers go down overnight. It's actually about small changes that will create massive results in your life that are long term. And she actually said, if you see in your life that you lose a ton of weight quickly or your numbers drop drastically, even if they're going in the right direction, that's actually a sign that your body isn't operating correctly and that it might not be the best healthiest thing for you. And when I first heard that, I was honestly really frustrated and I was like, whatever, like I want results overnight. I did have a weight number that I wanted to drop because I just knew that I wasn't like the healthiest version of myself. And I was frustrated. I didn't want to hear that from somebody. I was like, I'm paying you money to help me with my health, and you're telling me this is going to take longer. Like, you're supposed to make this go faster. And that was my attitude. But now, on the other side of it, I just met with her this week and my numbers have gone down, and I still have a little ways to go, of course. Like, I think I'll always be evolving and growing, but I have realized that they were right, that my naturopath and the nutritionist, they were right, that it really is about those small changes that create those big results in your life that are sustainable. And Steven and I were all about creating leverage in your life, which is also a sustainable business model. Because if you go so hard, go so fast for so long, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out your family. And ultimately, I don't believe that you will build a business that creates a legacy. I feel like you'll just build a business that might look on the outside like you're doing great, but it'll burn you, it'll burn your family. And that's what we're not all about. And so I just want to inspire you today. I want to encourage you to keep going. And I also want to share with you some things that I see people fall into that I want you to avoid.
The reason we're so passionate about this is it's kind of like the difference between fast food and fine dining, right? Fast food, like you get your calories quick, you feel good, you got like, oh, but then you feel awful afterwards. It's not sustainable, it's not healthy. Fine dining, on the other hand, you're going to be sitting there for 3 hours. They're going to bring things out very slow, but it's all locally sourced and organic and amazing quality, right? And it's more sustainable. Okay. And so this is a big difference. And a lot of people have a fast food mindset when it comes to business.
Mhm.
They just want that quick fix. They want that quick hit. They want to just like make money today and not care about the future. And
Mhm.
like Chelsey said, like we want to guide you as mentors to say, focus on the future. How can you have a bigger, longer term mindset around the business? And oftentimes, I mean, I see so many early stage entrepreneurs just go after fast food opportunities. And
Mhm.
every couple of years, I just see them doing something different.
Mhm.
Right. And if you can stay focused on one thing, you can really build a sustainable business that can create legacy for years to come. This really is kind of the principle of sowing and reaping, right? Sowing is planting and reaping is harvesting. And so you can't expect to harvest for years to come without planting, without nurturing the soil. I mean, any gardeners know, or any regenerative farmers know, you
Mhm.
can't even plant in the same soil year after year. You have to kind of till it. You have to remix it. You have to do other things to really nurture even the soil, right?
Mhm.
Because it's pulling nutrients out every single year. This is really the mindset you have to have with your business. You got to shift to this because it's going to not only bulletproof you for years to come, but it's going to prepare you for those overnight successes. When people see it like, wow, they just blew up. It's like, no, I've been planting in this ground for years to
Mhm.
come. I've been nurturing the soil for years to come. And so this is the concept we wanted to hit today on the episode.
And we even tell people that come into our program, you can't, get your seeds, plant your garden, and expect overnight that your garden is going to be producing fruit, whatever that crop is that you planted. You have to nurture it. You have to water it. You have to know. Remember, we talk a lot about in our Rainmaker challenge, right? Plant right place. You can't plant tomatoes in the shade and expect them to grow. So you have to do that research first. And then you might have weeds that sprout up in your garden. You have to pull those out. Sometimes you might have to pluck things out of your life. And it's this process, but if you do it right and if you do it long term, you will see the results. It's just that principle that we've seen over and over again. When you take time to nurture things, they do grow. And too many people, I think, give up too quickly. They give up when things get hard. And in entrepreneurship, in life, it doesn't really matter if you're running a business or not. Everybody faces stuff in their life that's uncomfortable and that's hard. And your mind and your body, this is science backed, want to keep you safe. They want to keep you safe. So oftentimes when you come up against a wall or a decision where you're supposed to push through something, your body and your mind want to keep you safe. And so what does it do? It reverts back to old pattern thinking, old mindsets that ultimately just had you stay stuck and not going and advancing to where you want to go. And so it really is that opportunity of when you hit those walls, how are you going to push through? And it takes getting uncomfortable to continue moving forward. And Steve and I, we are further along in our entrepreneur journey. So we realize when those walls come up, we see it as an invitation to move forward and knowing that breakthrough is on the other side. And the level of intensity of those walls varies. We've had walls that are like, oh, shoot, okay, this is a small pivot, but we're going to change it from all the way to wow, this is a massive pivot. And we don't have every single answer right now, but we know that our mission and our values are going this direction. So we're willing to push through, even if we don't have anything. And we're coming off of a challenge week. We re recorded our Rainmaker challenge content. And it went amazing. It went really great, but there were massive walls leading up to it and even some things during the week that we had to push through because we know the power of this challenge. We know the power of our messaging. And I think there are things that we've done in the last year and a half that have prepared us for this moment. And they're small things. They're small things of showing up every single day that have gotten us to this way. And so I just want to encourage you. It's about those small things that you do when nobody is watching, when some people might be listening to your content, might be following your story, when others tell you to stop, when others say, is it really worth it? You chose it into the yes, this is absolutely worth it. So here's an example, real life example for you. I felt like, and based on the results and the numbers we're seeing and the feedback we've been getting from complete strangers all the way up into our team, is that Steve and I did an amazing job with the content that we created for our Rainmaker challenge. And I agree. I think we were able to tell powerful stories. We were able to create transformation from people. But that started way, way years ago in the making. We decided, I think one of the key things that has allowed us to speak from a Zoom call or a stage is that we've had practice. We've had rep after rep. And one of the easiest ways is we've been consistent with showing up weekly in our Rainmaker Challenge group. We go live every single week and we just give and we provide value. And about a year and a half ago, we had this concept to do this. And I would say about the first like 6 months or so, we went live pretty consistently, but it wasn't like we're going to do this regardless. Like we didn't have an all in mindset with it. And it kind of showed. And about a year ago, we realized this is so important that we start showing up more consistently, regardless if we have travel or things going on. We're committed to this. And I really feel like those reps of you and I going back and forth together, because anybody knows working with a partner or working with your spouse, especially going live, and we don't really script a ton of things out. We kind of know where we're going, but we've worked that muscle of going back and forth together. And we practice, we put in the reps at least once a week, if not more, whether it's his podcast or something else. We put in the time and the reps. And so then when we came time to re-record the content and go live in front of thousands of people, like we were ready and we were prepared. And there was this effortless, of course, we're going to always evolve and improve, but I really felt like there's this effortlessness of going back and forth together. And that was because of the reps that we were willing to put in like a year ago. And so I think there is power in putting in the reps and laying a healthy foundation for you now.
We're in a mastermind and Dean Graziosi spoke. He's kind of an OG marketer. He's been around the space before the internet. And he was really talking about marketing stamina and like that just
Mhm.
most people don't have stamina in their business to do the same thing over and over and over again and just do it better and better.
Mhm.
And this is something that we have really done with our challenge, and why that experience is so powerful is because we've done that challenge over and over and over again, the same exact challenge. And every time it changes, but it's the same content. We're just making it a little bit better. And so Chelsey and I spend like an entire week, the week before the challenge, going through every day of the challenge and going like, what are we taking out? What are we adding? What are we improving? How can we tell that story better? Right. It's just like a comedian who's doing a set. Like he's going to do his jokes for like hundreds of audiences and be like, oh, when I said it that way, it hit like this. When I said it
Mhm.
that way, it bombed. Right. This joke definitely take out. This joke definitely do more of. Right.
Mhm.
That's where you see like the Kevin Harts of the world go in front of stages and just crush it because they've done the reps for years and years and years. Kevin Hart's book is actually super interesting. It was way deeper than I thought it would be. I listened to the audiobook, which is hilarious because he reads it himself. And in between, he's like making commentary about stuff. But like, it was like, oh man, the
Mhm.
persistence of people like this who just like have that drive to do the same thing and like have that constant ever improvement for the better. We named our first son Kaizen because that means continual change for the better. And when you see like excellence, when you see like people that are at the top of the game, oftentimes they've done just so many reps on that thing. I mean, I don't know if you've seen like The Last Dance is the story of Michael Jordan. You can just see that drive in him where it's just like he is so committed to winning that like he'll go after it at all costs. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, Michael Jordan was willing to put in the reps. He put in the reps. He worked harder than any other player. He showed up like when no cameras were on him, when there's no social media, when his teammates and coaches weren't around. He showed up early, he stayed late. He put in the reps so that when game day came around, he was prepared. And Steven and I like don't hear us. We're not about like hustle culture. Like you can truly do this from a place of like rest and having intentional time with your family. But there is something to be said about reps and putting in the work and knowing that you have to take time to hone your skill. You have to take time to understand material. It's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
And if you see it as if it is an overnight thing, just know that that person has worked really hard behind the scenes before anybody knew their name, before any like thing just evolved. Like that doesn't just happen.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with my tattoo artist, who I believe is one of the best in his style of tattooing in the world. And he studies great people. He studies greatness, and he just is really into like people that have just like mastered their craft. And he was really kind of like struggling with this idea of like even having a family. He's probably my age, but like I have a family, I have kids. This guy's single, but he does desire that. But he also wants to be a master. He wants to be the
Hmm.
best of the best. And he said, when I studied these people, a lot of them sacrificed the family
Hmm.
for the greatness. When you study the great people who just like, man, they do the amazing things. Oftentimes, like that was their only thing. And their family honestly suffered. And here's the big difference between that and business. Business you can outsource, okay? Like you can't outsource Michael Jordan. He can't be like, hey, I want you to shoot my free throws. I want you to shoot my 3 pointers, and I want you to do the practice for me. But in business ownership, we can. So while we can pursue excellence, pursue mastery, we can also set up systems that protect our lives so we can actually have family, kids, relationships that are
Mhm.
healthy. When you look at any like really healthy business, I believe there is these 5 things that is really needed. You need like a pioneer in the business. This is someone who like sees new territory. They kind of see a little bit of the future and they can go in faith and like have, it's like you call it, like we call it a visionary sometimes. You also need a teacher, someone who can like communicate, they can equip, they can like create systems and teach people how to do that thing. You need a shepherd, someone who is going to be able to take care of the people, to really love the people, whether it's the clients or the team. You need a futurist, someone who's really just all focused on the future and like, man, what's coming around the corners? Like what is in the next 10 years, and have that like big vision. And you also need like an enroller, right? Someone who like is just like, they are like all for the cause. They are someone who is going to just rally the troop around the mission. And the thing is, I believe like pioneers is really the person that carries all of those people within them, because the pioneer is someone that goes into new territory and they set up the system. Like you go into this new industry, you set up the business, and within you, you birth the teacher, the shepherd, the futurist, and the enroller. And you create your team, you create your system. And for a lot of times in those early days, you were playing almost all those roles. And what we've been really focused on in our business is how can we build the system, but what a mature pioneer actually will nurture in the process and actually tap into some of those things that are a little bit harder. Pioneers are very much like the futurists too. Like usually when you see like really strong entrepreneurs, they're like very much pioneers and they're very much futurists. They're like, I see the vision, I'm going here.
Mhm.
And that's definitely the way I lean most of the time. Chelsey, on the other hand, she is a futurist. She can see the vision, but she also has a lot of that shepherd in her, that mama heart. I'm going to take care of people, all these things. So we balance each other out really well, because you see a lot of times these really big companies led by unhealthy pioneers who don't have the shepherd thing within them,
Mhm.
and they just destroy people in the name of the mission, right? Like Steve Jobs would be one of these guys who he's such a futurist, such a pioneer, new territory, big vision, but he is so committed to that thing that he will hurt people in the process because he didn't have the teacher as much. He didn't have the shepherd as much. You know, he has enroller for sure. He's a great marketer, right? But he didn't have those things. And so a mature pioneer, right, who's going to really lead a business needs to nurture all of these things or have people in their business that have all those things. And so the reason we share this is because as we've kind of grown in our business, we've really shifted from like, oh, let's just get that quick win, right? To like, let's play the long game. Let's play a
Mhm.
game longer than anyone else can. Let's see the vision so big that like, it's so big that other people's visions can fit within it and that we couldn't even do this vision on our own.
Mhm.
And we're, you know, maturing in our business. And I feel like we're always in that process of getting better, but it comes down to really looking at those 5 areas and going like, how can I shepherd better in this season? Right? How can I teach better in the season? How can I enroll better in the season? And you go through seasons where you have to tap into those other parts of you while still having that pioneer and that futurist still guiding the way and still going into new territory. The reason we're kind of giving this analogy is because this is how we train our team, because it's very tempting to just be all pioneer and all new territory and all visionary and just like really go after the thing. But if you don't nurture those harder parts of the process, like mastering the mundane, right? Having systems, right? Having balance in your calendar and having boundaries in your calendar so that you have freedom. If you don't do those things in the process, you not only hurt people in the process, but you hurt yourself in the process. You hurt your family, you hurt your relationships. And so this is one of the big like things that we have really learned to master in this season is to focus on those small things so that we can have amazing results. It's not always the most exciting thing to do a family meeting on Sunday afternoon. Sometimes we just want to take a nap, but we do that family meeting. It's a small thing that we do every single week that produces massive results that week, produces massive amounts of peace that week, produces even deeper connection between Chelsey and I. So we're supporting each other. Like that little thing, mastering that mundane thing that feels like another meeting has
Mhm.
been an incredible small change that's created huge results.
Mhm.
And we did a whole episode on that topic of how we run those family meetings. It's episode number 99. It's called Level 10 Your Life. Use this 30-minute technique to transform your family and your business.
And why Steve is bringing up these different parts, like the visionary, the enroller, and all of those, is because in all of those tasks, like, and even if you're just starting out, I think people don't want to talk about the mundane. They don't want to hit live every single day if that's their goal. They just want to like have this magic formula and then boom, you just go for it. But it really is about getting the structures in place. It's about showing up every single day. It's about interacting with your audience if you're using social media to grow your business, like interacting with them and doing polls and figuring out what is sticking and what doesn't. I sometimes get frustrated. I'm like, I'm just putting content out there. Is this really sticking? But I know the long term effect of that is engaging with my audience. And then of course, every once in a while, like my goal isn't to have like a thing on social media go viral. Like that's not my number one goal. Like, of course, that would be amazing if it did, but it's more about like putting in the reps, putting in the time. And the more I've put in the reps, the more I put in the time, the more you get clarity and momentum in the direction that you're going. Like I've been putting out more content more than ever. And this really started like 9 months ago, 10 months ago. And I just started and it was like this change and this transition. And I didn't have all the pieces. I think you have to go before you know, oftentimes. You have to start paddling to catch the wave, to catch the breakthrough. And so I was just committed to, I'm going to start. And then 5 months in, I got more clarity. And now I have even more vision and more clarity. And I see this as like, I am building something for the long term, for the sustainable future for our family and for our businesses. And that's what I can focus on. And same thing with the challenge. Like I am focused on the one mama who needs this message, who needs the transformation in her life. I, of course, am like, I care about the numbers and I care about hitting revenue goals for our team because those are big things and exciting that we need to keep the momentum going as well. Like, you need money to fuel the business, of course. But I'm also so connected and concerned about just the one person that I'm going to tap into, the one person that needs me, and I'm committed to that process and I'm committed to not giving up. And I just think too many people expect to have this beautiful, flourishing garden when they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work, or there's a roadblock because life comes up and it derails them. And then they don't get back on the wagon. They don't get back on the horse. I think, when I was pregnant with Oliver, like I kind of jumped off the social media bandwagon a little bit. Like I wasn't doing as much content because I was so sick. But afterwards, I got back on the horse. And that's the point that matters is like, even if you feel like you're supposed to take a break or cut back in certain areas, like you still need to be putting in the time to reap the garden. And that garden might grow, but it might grow a little slower. And that's okay too.
Yeah. I think the last trap we'll cover, and we'll wrap this episode, is okay, Chelsey, I want to do the thing. I want to focus on the stuff. And then we see these early stage entrepreneurs just doing all these things that aren't really helping the business,
Mhm.
right? It's not really helping. And I know it's this fine line between like, sometimes you have to do stuff for a season and it doesn't feel like it's helping, but it's in alignment, right?
Mhm.
It's just kind of like you're going to nurture your garden. You walk out to the garden and you see the fence and you're like, oh, I need to paint the fence. So you go and paint the fence. But is that really helping, is that helping your plants grow? No, it's like, so like, I think we see a lot of early stage entrepreneurs not have total clarity on where they're going or what their like vision is. And so they don't really have a compass to like weed decisions through. And
Mhm.
so they end up just like doing a ton of busy work, right? They
Mhm.
end up just like, oh, I did this, I did that. Like I have a friend who does this all the time. He's always telling me all the stuff he's doing for his business, but none of them are really, doesn't feel like they're moving him towards the actual goal he wants. And so I would just encourage you to have a compass, like have a vision, like where is your business? Like what's your goal, even just a year from now, 2 years from now for this
Mhm.
business? And then just like bring it down as simple as you can. For us in Rainmakers, it's like time freedom, financial freedom, and thriving family legacy. Right. Those are like our three things. And so when something comes across our plate and for the Rainmaker business, we go, does it like align with that compass? Is it pointing us towards that thing? Or is it taking us off track down a different rabbit hole? Now, sometimes you don't know until you start to step into something, but in the early days of your business, your time is the most precious thing because you're doing a lot of the stuff.
Mhm.
And so you got to be really protective of how you're putting your time in today. So, because today affects tomorrow.
Mhm.
And so, I'd encourage you to just like take a second to get some clarity on where you're going and then use that to filter decisions through, and saying no to stuff is okay because it's
Mhm.
going to help you say yes to things that are actually taking you and giving you momentum. and like actually moving you towards that thing.
hmm And I think I want to end with too that I feel like so many walls come up in regards to fears of what if this doesn't go the way that I want, fear if I've tried something before and I failed. And there's all these fear walls. And I want to say to you today that fear, it is illusion, is an illusion. Fear is an illusion. Danger is real. I'm not going to like sugarcoat that. Danger is real, but fear is an illusion. And when you start to feel the fear come up, that is an invitation to push past it, to break through so that you can have some breakthrough. So I want to encourage you in that fear is an illusion and you've got this, to keep going, keep putting in the reps, keep putting the time, carve out time when nobody is watching, when your family is doubting you, when your friends think you're crazy, keep putting in the time. And as always, Stephen and I are always rooting for you in your corner. You got this. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.